Hi guys, just a couple of little points I want to make about cutting videos, okay? And I've touched on these points previously in other videos I've made, but they've been perhaps bigger videos and the individual points have maybe got lost in there. So my basic point is that I have a problem, a little bugbear, an annoyance with cutting demonstration videos, and these could be Japanese cutting of tatami mats, or they could be cold steel type, product placement, selling a sharp sword, showing what you can cut through with it. These kind of cutting videos where you're supposed to be wowed by the sword's cutting ability. Well, in actual fact, as we've discussed in previous videos, lots of types of sharp sword can cut, to a similar degree. If you take a sharp longsword, or a sharp katana, or a sharp Chinese jim, don't know how you say it, or jan, or a falchion, or these kind of swords, or a Turkish kilich, or these various different types of sword can all cut really, really well. And clearly some swords can't cut quite as well. Perhaps very light sabers, or rapiers, or certain types of light side sword and spadroon and so on. Because there's always a trade-off. Clearly, if you want a sword that's lighter and more nimble, in general, not always, but in general, it's not going to cut as well as a sword which is longer or heavier, and so on. But my basic problem with some of these cutting videos is they're showing you what you can cut through with these very exaggerated and big movements. What I want you to do is, when you watch these videos in future, and when you're deciding whether you're impressed or not with the cutting technique that you've just witnessed, I want you to look at two things. Those two things are, number one, when they swung that sword, after they'd swung through the cut, were they composed with the weapon? Was it moving in a way that would have been conducive with them immediately maybe cutting again, or defending themselves as needs be? Or did they swing the sword in such a way that it left them massively open? Okay, because one of the things that we do in fencing, historical fencing, and of course in Asian martial arts as well, is if someone goes to hit you, one of the simplest things you can do is step out of the way, either stepping backwards or stepping offline or such like. And once you've done that, you can then hit them on the return as they're exposed. So somebody who swings the sword in such a wild way that they leave a huge great opening, it's a gift to their opponent, really. Okay? So that's the first thing I want you to look at. When people are doing these cuts, are they doing it in a way that they're never going to do in a real fight, because it would leave them too exposed? And the second thing is about distance. Okay, so one of the things when I'm trying to cut that I do is I start out of distance. In other words, from a distance away from my opponent, where with one sword swipe neither of us could hit each other, because that's the distance at which a fight starts. And when I perform the cut, I move into distance and do the cut at the same time, because in a fight that's what you do. And pretty much every cut you give in swordplay is given in this way. You don't walk up to the opponent and then start hitting, because you'll just hit each other and both die, or lose limbs, or something else nasty. So I do understand that sometimes a person wants to stand in front of a cutting target and simply wants to swing the sword as hard as they possibly can to see what effect they'll have on the target. But personally, that doesn't really impress me. Okay, there are skills involved. Some people are better at doing that than others, and you can learn those skills. But the two things that I'm primarily looking for when I see people cutting things is, firstly, are they able to cut effectively and keep the sword controlled and composed so they can carry on with actions after that? And secondly, is there some movement involved? Okay? Because nobody ever walks up to an opponent and then chops them in half in a real fight. Okay? Unless it was by surprise or some other kind of trick. But in a usual fight where both people know that they're fighting, you have to somehow advance at the same time as you hit, and often then move out again, or advance and then advance again. So these are the two things that I would like to see more of in cutting demonstrations, and I have to say some of the very popular cutting videos out there that everyone goes, wow, isn't that awesome? Some of them I really hate because to me they show awful swordsmanship, and really they're no different to just someone chopping a tree down, which doesn't have an awful lot to do with swordsmanship. Thank you.